Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Great to see you. Thank you if you're joining us online. Thank you very much for welcoming us back into your home or your office, wherever you are. Lovely to see everyone in the room. As you know, we are working through the different areas of the Outlook report that Benza outlined for us at the start of the morning. So we've talked about yields, productivity, how to increase productivity, but with the underlining of it being sustainable productivity and what that really means for everyone involved in the sector. What we're going to move on to now is the more of the global context. So markets, performances in key commodities, the potential headwinds, the uncertainties there. If you think back to the Slido word cloud we did at the beginning, that word uncertainty was right across the centre. So let's tackle now some of those issues and challenges and see how it can all fit together. So delighted to welcome your next moderator to take us through this area. Please welcome Anna Gumbau.
Thank you very much, Sasha. All right, so hi everybody, and welcome to this session on the EU's position in global markets. I have the challenge of moderating this session. I'm sure that we have really a lot to discuss. We're going to have plenty of questions from you in the audience. As Sasha already mentioned, one of your key concerns that appeared in the word cloud today is uncertainty, and in particular the global uncertainty and the tricky period, the uncertain situation that we feel like in global markets and in geopolitics around us. So this is precisely what we have this session for, and this is why we also have the agricultural outlook for, to bring some clarity into these discussions. So today, in this session, we're going to be talking on the EU's trade prospects. We're going to be highlighting the outlook for the EU's net trade performance across key commodities and its share in global exports. So the way that this session is going to go, we're going to be starting with a keynote speech. Then we will have our panel discussion here on the floor, and then we're going to be taking your questions. I will do my best to give ample time for you to ask your questions. We will have, of course, a Slido where you can share your questions online. You probably know the drill already. For those of you joining online, or for those of you on the floor who are a bit shy. But I don't think I have a very shy audience with me here in Brussels, so I will also like to encourage you to raise your hand when you want to and ask any questions as well. So let me start by welcoming each one of my speakers one by one. I will be introducing them, and I would like all of you to welcome them with a big round of applause. Let me start by welcoming the Chancellor at the Mission of Thailand to the EU, Patompong Singtong. Welcome. Patompong can join me over here. Joining us as well is the Secretary General at COSERAL, Iliana Axiotiades. Welcome. And Iliana can join me next to Patompong. We also have the Secretary General at Eurolate, Jukka Likitalo. Welcome. And Jukka can join me over here. And also with us is the Head of Unit for Global Issues, WTO, and Relations with ACP Countries, Agriculture, at the DG Agriculture and Rural Development in the European Commission, Agata Galinska. Welcome. And Agata can join me over here. And to get us started and to give us a bit of the sense of what we are going to be discussing in the session, as well as the outlook, indeed, for the EU's trade prospects and exports, I'm delighted to be welcoming the socio-economic analyst at the European Commission's DG Agri, Mihai Himic. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Anna. I think I would not surprise anyone in this room if I said that the EU is a major exporter, but also a major importer of agri-food products. But it's still astonishing if we look at statistics, and this is what I did. And I'll give you some numbers for the month of September, so it is only 1 month. But EU agri-food exports amounted to 20.1 billion euros. and the imports to 14.7 billion euros. That would leave a surplus of more than 5 billion euros only in 1 month. For a comparison, if you look at the whole year, EU agri-food export value would be comparable and even surpassing the gross domestic product of the three Baltic states together. So that's a huge value, and that's why the EU Agriculture Outlook is looking at the details and the position of the EU on global agri-food markets. If you were with us this morning, you have seen already these graphs. And the left-hand side graph shows the export share of the EU. You can see that this is very substantial for many main agricultural products, for some staple foods like wheat, but also very significant for animal products, including dairy products, but also pig meat and poultry, for example. But the defining trend, what I would like to highlight is a kind of decline. So the EU export shares are projected to decline in the next 10 years. And behind this, there are multiple drivers. One of them is the increasing competition that has been already mentioned. Increasing competition on global markets as the global value chains are getting more and more integrated. We can also look at it from economist point of view, so looking at supply and demand. And we have seen before that the EU agricultural production is set to increase only slightly, so there is a limited potential to grow. But global demand, on the other hand, is increasing. So if we add up those two drivers, then decreasing share for the EU exports is also something we could expect for the next 10 years. If you look at the right-hand side, that's the annual growth rate of global imports. And this graph tells us as a story is an expanding and increasing global market. But also, a very interesting trend is that import demand is decreasing. So that's why the blue bars are getting smaller, but they are still positive, and they are still increasing. And behind them, there are multiple drivers again, but you have the demographic change, you have economic growth globally, increasing the purchasing power of consumers globally. The age structure is also changing, bringing very important changes in the diets and what the consumers want as food products. The last driver I want to mention, because it has been emerging in the last few years, is that geopolitical tensions are increasing. And so many countries are embraced in a new strategy of increasing self-sufficiency, and that also has an important impact on the import demand globally. When we do the comparison on agricultural markets, one of the challenges is how we aggregate different kinds of products, because we are talking about very different products. And one way of doing that is to calculate their contribution to the calorie intake of consumers. And this is what we did on the left, and you can see that currently the EU's contribution to the global export of calories is around 5%, but again, it is set to decrease. But there is a very interesting story behind. What we have seen in the last few years is a kind of transformation in EU exports, and we have seen that more and more higher value-added products are in the export portfolio of the EU. And another important transition for the EU agriculture exports is that instead of focusing on some key markets that the EU is targeting, we see that more and more countries are targeted for the EU exports. As we often say, there is a diversification of the markets, which of course is there to decrease the systemic risk in EU agricultural trade. And behind this risk, just to mention a few of them, there are geopolitical tensions again, which can disrupt agri-food markets, but also they disrupt the input markets that are very important for agriculture. And also climate change can emerge as an uncertainty with important local implications. To further illustrate why a strategy of moving to more value-added in export is important, you can look at the real price development on the right-hand side, and the graph is pretty flat. So what we expect for the next 10 years is a flat development of real prices. So increasing the value is an essential strategy to bring more value to EU farmers. Of course, in the report, we also look at the other side, so what the importer countries are willing to pay for the products, and that is a limitation for increasing the value added in exports. On this graph, I would like to give you an example, and I start with the EU dairy. You can see that currently, so on the left-hand side, you can see the big exporter countries on dairy markets, including the EU, but also New Zealand and US are there on the left-hand side. The important change on the dairy markets is that the focus of the growth, it's an expanding market, but the focus of growth is shifting from China, from the last decade, more to the Southeast Asian region. And also, markets like North America and Middle East is becoming more and more relevant for EU dairy exports. And while the EU is expected to maintain its leading position on cheese markets, and while the EU is projected in our outlook to maintain the export in terms of volumes, the export share is still decreasing, and you can see this on the blue colors on the left-hand side. At the same time, the New Zealand is expected to become the leader on global markets, at least in terms of volumes, and the US is increasing its share quite dynamically, even until 17%, as our projection says, for 2035. But there is something very positive to say about EU exports of dairy, and this is the increase in exported values. So if we look at the projections for the increase in export values, we still see a 2.6% annual increase in EU dairy exports, which is only a slight slowdown compared to the last decade. So there are still positive impacts there. Moving to another example on meat markets, I would like to focus most on the poultry part. So this is the very left-hand side bar that you can see. And poultry meat import demand is set to increase in the next 10 years. You can see that it's around 2.5 million tons of poultry meat that is set to be demanded on global markets. And this creates, of course, a market opportunity. And according to our projections, the EU is there to live with this opportunity, and the EU poultry markets, the poultry exports of the EU are set to catching up with an 8% increase in the next 10 years, as you can see maybe on the right-hand side. Let me say a little bit about the import dependency of some countries at different parts of the world, because we have seen in the last few years that many countries, the dependency on imports in many countries has been increased. And we try to summarize this with an indicator which we call here import dependency. The way we calculate it is the net import of a country divided by the domestic use, which basically tells you how reliant are those countries on imports. And we also did it for plant-based products on the left and animal products on the right. But there is a defining trend, what you can see for many countries in Southeast Asia, in Africa, and in general for least developed countries. And the point is that import dependency is increasing over time, and is projected to increase for the next 10 years. And that creates, of course, an opportunity for the markets for more exports, but it's also an uncertainty again. It's an uncertainty for the food availability on markets in some countries that are in the danger of food insecurity, for example. Let me give you an example on this, and this would be my final example for the wheat export of the EU and the wheat import globally. You can see on the left-hand side that the wheat imports are projected to further increase following the trend from the last 10 years. Specifically in North Africa, Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, those are the regions where we can see the most imports. And on the right-hand side, you can see that the EU net trade position of cereals, and the blue part of the bars is actually for wheat. And that is projected to be quite stable for the next 10 years. So we see that EU wheat exports can remain competitive on markets. Of course, the focus of EU wheat exports are in the North Africa, Middle East region, where it is in fierce competition with other lower cost producers and exporters of wheat. So I have to mention here that although the panel will probably discuss food security issues, this kind of market-based analysis has its own limitations. Of course, what the EU contributes to food security is pretty much through humanitarian aid and also cooperation on development in third countries. But these aspects will be reflected probably later on in the panel discussion. So this is all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mihaly, for giving us both the big picture and also the prospects from across sectors. I think there's indeed a lot for us to be discussing based on this first presentation. So I would like to turn to my panelists, and maybe since we've just seen all the statistics from the agricultural outlook that refer to trade and its perspective, is there maybe one particular figure or one particular point that really struck you? If you have to pick one key idea from that, what would it be? Let's get us started. Ileana.
What struck me is because I'm sitting next to Yuka, who represents the dairy sector, was the potential for the dairy sector and the limitations for wheat exports. And I thought we're sitting side by side. And you see, you know, I mean, like different products, different particularities. And we will discuss, I'm sure, later why. I thought that was striking, that it's not a black and white picture.
Indeed.
Yeah, there's a variety.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Ileana. Anything else? Yeah, Yuka.
Well, I can maybe build on that. Thanks, Ileana. Indeed, the demand potential for our sector is very significant. We still see that people want to consume more dairy in the world. And I think if we in Europe don't invest more in our production and in increasing our production further, then other countries in the world will do that.
Thank you. Maybe Patumpong? Yes.
Yeah, to me, like, it's a relief for me that, like, I hear that EU still need trade and then still need imports. So that's a relief for our region.
I see. And maybe Agata, something that struck you?
It's an interesting message, which was one of the beginning messages of Mihail's presentation. It's about the positive trade balance of the EU agri-food sector, and I find this a very important thing to highlight. And you could see in the slides that there is various products, various sectors which are mentioned. So this shows the diversification of sectors which are part of trade, both on the export and import side, which is about showing the importance of trade to the EU's agri-food sector. So I would calm you down. Absolutely, the EU absolutely needs trade. So there is no need to worry about that from me.
Thank you. So let me stay with you, Agata, because you, as part of the Commission, have been actively engaging in both already established but also new consumer markets. So could you tell me a little bit more about these initiatives? What particular products, geographies, objectives you would highlight?
Thank you for the question, Anna. Indeed, so what I was just saying now in terms of the importance of trade for the sector, there is another message which comes out of that, and it's that trade is a very important element of our relations with many parts of the world. And that's also something to recognize. And that's something which has been important for the Commission in the way we approach the trade agenda in terms of trade agreements. You will remember that in the beginning of the year, the Commission came out with a communication on food and agriculture, so the vision for food and agriculture, which also includes this vision guidelines of how we're looking at this international side for the agri-food sector. And there, I'd like to underline the fact that trade is very much recognized as part of resilience element of the sector. And that's an important message to keep in mind. And I would point to both the export side, because the exports it's export opportunities, new markets for our producers. It's also income that arrives back to the sector through the exports, but also the imports. The imports is also an important element of the equation, because it's through the imports that, for example, inputs arrive, which are very much helping to maintain stability of the supply chains for the agri-food sector. It was interesting also to note some of the numbers that Mihail was talking about earlier, because indeed we are observing and monitoring the developments of trade, and we're looking also at numbers available so far for this year. So we are seeing a positive net trade balance. I think for around September we are at around 36 billion euros. This is why, for the Commission, there's an important message behind the need to open new markets to European agri-food products. And I would say that, according to our calculations, already now, at the current stage, the Commission trades more than half of agri-food products with preferential trade partners. There is an important message in there, and this is also one of the reasons it has been an important part of the Commission's approach. So, you know that many agreements were presented, are either in the interinstitutional process currently under negotiation, which pretty much cover various parts of the world. I mean, of course, Thailand is also one of the countries with whom there is active negotiations ongoing now, active negotiations with India, interinstitutional process on the agreement with Mercosur, with Mexico. So this really goes throughout various parts of the world. Also, I would note a different type of engagement of the European Commission, which is in the area of promotion of agri-food products. It's a kind of a special way we can also support the sector under our policy. And there was a successful mission in which the Commissioner Hansen participated just recently to Brazil. On the other side of challenges, let me also say that the Commission is, of course, always engaged on any situations in relation to unfair global competition or abusive use of trade defense measures, which is also part of an important and balanced stability for rules.
Thank you, Agatha. And now let me jump to Councillor Singtong, because the region that, so Thailand and Southeast Asia region more broadly has been featuring quite prominently in the outlook as a big potential to increase trade with the EU. What do you consider that are the main drivers for this increase in EU exports to Thailand? We saw poultry, we saw also dairy in the wider Southeast Asia region. Why do you think so?
Let me start like this, like Thailand and the Southeast Asian region, we are producing countries. So we are self-sufficient, and then the products that currently have the access to the market is the products that we cannot produce locally. Like, so I think the EU should focus, like, you know, what it's good at, which is like high value products, and also like investment in machineries or know-how expertises. When I mention like, when I mean like high value product, is like premium pet foods, and then veterinary like diets, wine, alcohol, dairy products, also like olive oil, and pasta and condiments. So this is like the products that like have the access right now in the region by the EU. Also the investment, now we have like one Dutch company invested in Thailand, which leverage like Thailand as a regional hub to demonstrate like their machinery, like using like byproducts that we have abundantly in Thailand to their Asian clients. So this kind of investment is also the opportunity for the EU. To zoom out a little bit, like I'd like to mention about like the global trend that we are facing right now in terms of agricultural products. It revolves around like 4 Ds. The first one is deglobalization. decarbonization, digitalization, and the demographic changes. So this like 4Ds play like a lot, like, there are factors that shift our productions. I like to focus on deglobalization a little bit. That is now, there is a trend with the geopolitical imperatives require us to enhance internal market and competitiveness, and to foster self-reliance, resilience, and also autonomy wherever possible. So it's also but for the advanced economy like the EU, the consumption usually outpace the production. So I think trade is still essential, like I just mentioned, for the EU. And then, but now the patterns change a little bit, due to the deglobalization. Now we are looking, especially for our region as well, we face the same challenge. And then I can say the change of the patterns is we are looking for friends or reliable partners to secure our supply chain. Trade agreements has never been used as the tools to secure food security before. More and more now, trade agreements has been used to secure food security, especially for the EU. You diversify, you are now negotiating with 3 ASEAN countries, just concluded one with Indonesia, now negotiating with Thailand, Malaysia, and the Philippines. This is the signal that the EU need to diversify. My point is that from now on, we should look to one another as a reliable partner to become the part of the supply chain of each other. We are looking to support raw materials to the EU agri-food industry. For example, the EU can export their know-how, their technologies, their how to do business to the region. So when we look into each other integral part of each other's supply chain, we can have a mutual gain. So I stopped there for the first round. Yes.
So thank you, Councillor. So indeed, in terms of global uncertainty, you are looking for the reliable long-term partners, and you found in the EU one of them. Let me turn back to Ileana, because you discussed a bit what is the we were highlighting already what's the outlook for the wheat and the cereal sector. I wanted maybe for you to elaborate a bit more on your first answer. What do you think that the drivers are? What can you tell us about what we have seen in terms of the stabilization, slight decline? What would you say?
Thank you. I'd like to pick up first on something you said, which I think is important. It's one of the strengths of the EU, which is the reliability, the possibility. The EU is generally a politically stable group of countries, let's say a continent. So I think in terms of partnerships, this is one of our strengths. And I was listening to you, and I thought this is one of the things. But we have also many challenges. One of them is that one of the things that made the EU reliable was the stability of its climate, typically temperate climate, year in, year out, but we've seen, we had a few accidents in the recent years in terms of, because of the climate change. So this is becoming one of the challenges we have. The other thing is the EU has been sought after because of, it can respect very tight, very specific cahier de charge in English. You understand what I mean? And this is something that also is being challenged because we are lagging behind in terms of what's available from the perspective of innovation. So we had good news with the NGT's decision, but we don't have certain substances that we need in terms of for farmers to protect themselves from pests, and climate change means more pests, but then more and more substances are withdrawn from the market. So this is another challenge that I guess is contributing to what we see in terms of future decline. We had the big debate about deforestation, where there's more and more constraints and costs that are added to the supply chain of European traders, and you know, this is not only about wheat or corn or soybeans. It's, you know, a lot more sectors than us are concerned. So all in all, we see also, by the way, the fact that you know, we're losing surface area in the EU. So France lost 900,000 hectares out of around 14 million in the last years. I mean, it's a lot. We're losing farmers, as you know. So all this is explaining, and I feel my time is out from your body language. I'll come back.
Thank you, Liana. We'll have plenty of time to develop further in our conversation. Yeah. No worries, I'll get back to you. But Jukka, then from the dairy perspective, we've seen that it's going to be the prospects are, let's say, there's potential for increase in export value. What do you think are the drivers? Does it chime in with also what your members and the industry also tells you, and what you've noticed? What would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, first of all, I would say it's a very competitive marketplace, and competition is certainly increasing at the moment because we have more milk in Europe and also in all the other, I would say, main producing regions. But at the same time, as mentioned previously and as elaborated by Mihai as well, the prospects on the demand side are very good. And even in Europe, we see that dairy consumption is still increasing slightly. So in terms of our, I guess, sort of competitive advantages, similar to what Iliana was elaborating, I think we have a lot of diversity in Europe, of course, but generally speaking, it's a good region for producing milk. We have very high quality milk. We have an innovative industry to process that milk, and we have very skilled traders to move the product around and ensure that all the nice dairy products find a home somewhere. And as far as our exports are concerned, I think it really depends as well on the countries. So we have some perhaps more developed markets. I could mention US and Japan, for instance, as examples that appreciate the quality and reputation of certain European dairy products. Could be geographical indications or some strong brands. And then maybe in other markets closer by, like Algeria, for instance, where we export mostly milk powder, it's going to be the geographical proximity and perhaps our long-standing presence in the market that makes us more competitive. And of course, the free trade agreements that Agata elaborated on, they also enhance our competitiveness and are really crucial for the dairy sector. I think that cannot be overstated, because they allow us in some markets to compete on a level playing field with our competitors, and in the best case scenario, they grant us market access conditions that are better than those that our main competitors enjoy. So I think we need more of those in the Southeast Asian region, which is key, but also, for instance, in Latin America with the Mercosur agreement.
Thank you, Jukka. So before I move to my next round of questions for the speakers, I would like to remind you about the possibility of asking questions. So if I may have the Slido QR code just appearing so that you can ask any questions, either if you're joining in person or online, you'll be able to ask any questions that you want on Slido, and I'll try to take as many of them as possible. But I will also open the floor for questions also from those of you who are in the room. So don't worry, you will also get the chance to raise your hand, unless you don't want to, in which you have Slido. So let's move to my next round of questions for my panelists. I would like to get back to you, Agata, because let's say from a policymaker perspective, what do you see are the biggest challenges and biggest opportunities when it comes to the EU's contribution to global agri-food trade? What stands out to you?
Thank you, Anna. I think it's a very timely question, especially this year. I think we have to admit that 2025 has been a difficult year, and the uncertainty surrounding trade has been quite unprecedented. But aside from that, I'm very happy that there was a mention of climate change, which appeared before, because indeed agriculture is this sector which works basically hand in hand with nature. So of course anything related to environment and climate challenges affects very much agriculture, and there is a need to find a balanced approach between the two areas. So it's not just this uncertainty around trade or trade rules, but it is also everything around agriculture which affects agricultural production, and I think climate change is an element of that context as well, high input prices, etc. So all of that needs to be seen in the context together. This is why it has been important for the Commission to find a way for stability, for predictability, to try to approach the current context for agri-food trade in terms of providing some stable rules. And the conversation we just had about trade agreement is part of a reply to that situation. Going back to the vision for food and agriculture, which I mentioned earlier, the Commission communication adopted in the beginning of the year, you will see that also provides very much a focus on resilience for the agri-food sector, on competitiveness of the agri-food sector. I think these are the elements which we find very important. And in the context of trade, there is a need to look for diversification of our partners, both on the export and import side. And I was also very happy to hear our Thai colleague made a reference to dependencies, diversification. These are very much topics which are also the core of our policy making these days. All of that brings us to the absolute need for the Commission to act in a way that we strengthen partnerships across the globe. And on that, if we follow the structure of the vision, there is this, let's say, twofold approach. So we could take the first part, which is very much about the bilateral or global cooperation. So part of that is, of course, using the bilateral trade agreements to the full, in a way that they contribute to, well, the European economy. They ensure that interests of agriculture, sensitive products are well taken care of through a balanced approach to the agreements which are negotiated. And then there is also another side of a more global cooperation where the EU needs to be a leader in terms of cooperating with other parts of the world, so that the standards in our common transition to the sustainable food systems, because this is where we're all transitioning to globally in the world, so that there is a common effort in terms of increasing those standards. And then there's another side of work which is very much focused on creating a framework within the European Union. And here I'm thinking of more alignment in terms of the standards, production standards on products which arrive to the European Union through imports. And that's where, you know, the Commission has also taken steps in relation to the impact assessment on the pesticide side, which has recently been launched, and animal welfare work is already on the way, undergoing towards preparation of legislative proposals. I stop here because I sense that I've been taking a bit too much time, but I'm happy to come back later.
It's more like Slido is buzzing already, so I want to give you all ample time to answer the questions. Jukka, we've been seeing that there is a shift when it comes to exports. We are focusing more and more on value-added products, and that includes daily products as well. Do you think that this is the good way to go in terms of like valorizing exports? And how do you see this impacting the EU's contribution to global food security?
Yes, I think focusing on value-added products is very, very important, and we see that happening already in the dairy sector with I would say a growing share of our milk being processed into cheese, high-value cheeses, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, dairy protein concentrates, which also offer better returns than, I would say, standard bulk. bulk products. And of course, as a dairy company, you always want to obtain the best possible return for your milk, right? But at the same time, we need to recognize that even if you focus on value-added premium products, you're always going to have a part of your production that goes into standard commodities or ingredients. And I think we also need to recognize, and that's probably more important, that a lot of countries around the world, a lot of consumers can't afford high value-added. A lot of them can barely afford standard dairy products. So I think Europe has a responsibility there as well to come in terms of contributing to global food security. And so I believe that we should continue producing really all kinds of dairy products in Europe, essentially whatever the market, whatever the consumers are demanding. It should not be dictated by policy choices, I would argue. And in that sense, I think it's also important that European policymakers don't make it too difficult for our farmers to produce in a competitive way and for the industry to operate. So perhaps not too much interference in the supply chain relationships and that sort of thing.
So I think that message landed very well with our audience. Maybe Liana, is there something that you would like to add in terms of the focus to more value-based exports? How do you see it, or like where should the EU put its focus on?
So we export raw materials. What I could say here is that I find often we refer to wheat or barley, that really EU exports as commodities, and we should see them more, give them more added value by seeing them as ingredients, because in reality this is what they are food ingredients. And I think that if the focus we have, the approach we have to these products changed, the policies would also be adjusted in order to support these exports, because they have a very strong, they're very important politically, I believe. You know, we see that, raw materials, agricultural raw materials have become weaponized, and I think there is something to be done so that the EU maintains its exports of wheat, which it's been losing to Russia, for example, who used to be a net importer 25 years ago and has become exporter, and has become #1 exporter to, at disadvantage of the EU. So this is, if I was to find something with regard to added value, that's what I would bring up.
This resonates very well with one of the first questions that I get from Slido that is highlighted here, which says that we are discussing the importance of strategic autonomy and self-sufficiency. How can the EU achieve this if most of our inputs, such as animal feed needed for production, are imported from abroad? Do I have any thoughts on this question, or anybody would like to add something to it? Yes, of course.
I think it links very well with some of the issues I've been trying to bring up. It's precisely one of the issues which we find strategically important for the EU agri-food sector, and this is precisely why we are talking about diversification both on the export and import side and reducing dependencies. It's an important word, dependencies. And for that, opening doors to partners all around the world. I like the reference to reliable partners. That's also something which appeared earlier in the discussion. That's certainly how we are approaching this topic, because at the end of the day, trade has both channels, the export side and the import side, and both of them can bring benefits for the sector.
Maybe I would like to bring in Councillor Sington, because we talk a lot on the EU level on the questions around strategic autonomy. I'm wondering, what's the conversation like in Southeast Asia? Do you have the same worries, same concerns that we have here at EU level? What do you say?
Let me build on what I just mentioned about the reliable partner. I will add one more word for you, which is shared values.
Shared values.
Yeah. The thing is that I also would like to address the questions in the Slido as well on the reciprocal production standards imposing on third countries. So What I'm saying is that not just the reliable, but like the partner that share the same values in terms of sustainability, in terms of traceability, in terms of production qualities with the EU. So Thailand and the regions, we are committed to that. For example, like in the negotiation of FTA, we just concluded the TSD chapter, Trade and Sustainable Development chapter, which is like pretty much focused on the standards on sustainability on our production and products sending to the EU. Also for Thailand itself, like the sustainability started from our mindset. We have the mindset across the sectors that like we would like to achieve this sustainability, and then we regard like EU regulations not just like something that we have to do to export, but as like a tools, like the impetus, the catalyst to shift our economy into like more sustainable one. So this is like important that kind of partner that can work with the EU. This is like what I like to add. Yes.
Thank you. I think, were you going to add something, Ileana?
Yeah, coming back to the earlier question, it's giving our farmers better conditions to grow. I think this is a very important one, and making sure they don't fall behind with digitalization. I think it was very interesting. Someone said earlier today that there are trainings that are provided, etc., for farmers. But I really believe also, I mean, if you look at the very low income that they have. I mean, so this is really a very important thing. We need, you know it already, but just to underline it, yeah.
Thank you. And Yuka.
Just very briefly on the issue of strategic autonomy, I think it's very important to highlight that strategic autonomy and self-sufficiency are not the same thing. So it doesn't mean that you need to be self-sufficient in all product categories. I mean, no country or bloc, such as the EU, can achieve that. So trade is necessary in a way to move to shift the imbalances. And the key there is to diversify both the export destinations and sources of import, as was already said.
Thank you. We have 25 minutes to go for this session, so I'll take one slide of question also to make sure that our colleagues with the microphones are already prepared, and then I'll take the questions from the floor. I already have one noted down here in the middle. So, because it relates very well, my next question on what Ileana was saying before. There's a question that says, talking about competition, how can EU farmers cope with lower prices of imported products? How is the situation being monitored and addressed? So how can we make sure that trade deals and like our openness to global trade doesn't create losers at home? Anything that you would like to add to it? Or anything that you want to?
I'm happy to start. I'm just looking at the questions, and I found the last one now.
It's an interesting
quite a provocative one.
Yes.
Yes. So, well, I think this topic maybe takes us a little bit further from trade per se, and also goes a bit into domestic context, right? Because it's not only trade which defines prices at which products can be bought by consumers in the market. So there are many, many reasons and many aspects which actually go into the pricing with the market. And that's something which the Commission has also been looking at, and that brings me to the value chain approach. So it's also important that farmers have a role, a strong role in the value chain, so that they can also benefit from the sustainable development of the value chain. So trade can influence part of that, but I wouldn't also like to put trade as the solution to all aspects of prices of products in the market. But on this, this is where the need for balanced trade agreements comes out, I think, in a very strong way. And agricultural sector is a specific element in that. And there was also an earlier question I saw in relation to agriculture in trade agreements more general. So for the Commission, It has always been important, as I was saying before, to open markets, right? Because we find that new markets bring benefits to the sector. But we are, of course, very much aware that there are sensitive sectors within the EU agri-food structure which do need protection. This is why opening of markets for these sectors is done in a cautious, balanced way. And that's why there has been use of tariff rate quotas, longer implementation aspects, safeguards, and this is something which certainly the Commission will continue also in the future.
Thank you. Now I'm going to open the floor for questions. Just please, before you raise your hand, make sure to remember to, I'll start here in the middle, to please introduce yourself, be short and straight to the point, and as you heard me say yesterday, remember, questions. A question ends with a question mark. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Max Schulman, active farmer from Finland. Just a quick question. FTAs, very needed, but at the same time we need to make sure that both the importers but also the exporters will be able to promote the products so that they can find the market. What kind of role do you see that the promotion policy plays in this from the European side, and how can it be enhanced?
All right, thank you. Question on promotion policy. We had another one over here. Please.
Hello, my name is Bengü. I'm coming from the European Environment Agency. My question is about as climate extremes increasingly disrupt international agri-food supply chains and amplify price volatility. Which mechanisms are most effective in preventing these shocks from translating into reduced food affordability and nutritional security? And where do current EU and global approaches still fall short? But of course, I'm asking this question also trying to understand without undermining the farmers' viability. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone in this side of the room? All right, you're somewhere in the middle, but I can take a last one.
Thank you. Liam McHale from the Irish Farmers Association. I come back to maybe a comment from Ms. Galinska regarding the protection for farmers in trade agreements. And you mentioned a successful visit to Brazil by the Commission. And this is where the disconnect is. I don't think that farmers believe the Commission is giving enough protection, because within a couple of weeks of the Commissioner visiting, IFA and the Irish Farmers Journal visited Brazil and saw widespread use and availability of antibiotics. No prescriptions, no controls. A week later, we see the Commission reporting that hormone beef was imported into the European Union and cooked and served to European citizens. That is the reason that we're going to be protesting on Thursday in relation to Mercosur, in relation to trade, and also in relation to the CAP. Farmers need to believe that they're being listened to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, who wants to get us started?
Sorry.
Let's please take these first questions, and then we'll take more questions from the audience. Anyone wants to start? We have the questions around promotion, price volatility, and I think the trust and belief also from farmers. So.
I'm happy to start. So the audience questions, not these ones, okay?
Yes, please.
Promotion policy, so an important element to which indeed I made a reference earlier, which is also part of the work where the Commission cooperates with the sectors and with the member states in terms of finding the ways also to open markets. This is all about creating new markets for products which are high quality, safe products, which is the strong element of recognizability of European products in the global world trade. And there is also going to be an increased spending in relation to promotion policy, so we see a bright future in terms of what could be done, but of course that's where we need also member states and the sector to help us define precisely the targets. Should I continue with the other questions?
If you can briefly, you want to briefly take them, we can do a little round, yes.
Yeah, so the second one, if you could remind me that.
Price volatility, wasn't it?
Price volatility. Nutrition as well, price volatility.
Exactly, yeah.
I think it's a very big topic which links so many aspects. So for me, the various elements you mentioned in your question, they really come to the word resilience. When we talk about resilience of the sector, at least in my understanding of the word, It is about ensuring there is production, ensuring that consumers can buy what is available in the shops, ensuring that in the future there are farmers on the land, ensuring prices are at good level, ensuring nutritious food, environment, resilience for me covers it all. And I think here I would come back again to the vision in terms of the context of, well, domestic action, first of all, which is taken. I don't know, one example, generational renewal strategy, the improvement of farmers' position in the supply chains, and then the international context as well. But this is such a big topic, I think I can only give a big answer.
Who would like to go next?
Yeah, I can continue. So I would agree with those points. And on promotion and free trade agreements, I think it all starts with a good communication about the benefits of each agreement and the possibilities that they offer, which I think is being increasingly done. And we and our members also value very much the high-level missions or agri-food delegations, as they are called, to countries with which these deals are concluded. On the question of price volatility, I think it's really hard to tackle the causes of that, because it's a result of complex supply and demand dynamics. But what we can do indeed is to enhance our resilience, and we can do that with various risk management tools, making use of the ones that exist in the private space. And I think there's a role for public support as well, public sort of insurance schemes in extreme price disturbances.
Anyone else wants to add something? Yes.
I might not directly answer your questions, but what I'd like to mention about the free trade agreement is that it might not be able to solve everything, but one thing that we can look at the free trade agreement is that it's not only tit for tat or open this market for that or for this product for that products. It's also avenue for cooperation as well. You can leverage FTA to boost your internal productivities or capacity to produce. We are in Thailand, we are now expediting, negotiating with many partners, Korea. For example, we see it as opportunity to attract more investment, to attract more high quality products into our market. So I just encourage you to see FTA as opportunity to more cooperation. I end my presentation with that. Yes.
Thank you very much. Someone is asking on Slido, what niche products should producers or farmers focus that have potential for high demand on export? So in very practical terms, are there any niche products that you would highlight that our producers, our farmers should be focusing on? I don't know if maybe looking more at Ileana and Yuka, but I don't know if there's any.
Well, I mean, you can process milk into an literally endless variety of products and ingredients. So the list is also endless. And we have, we always talk about the main categories, but there are so many ingredients that we are increasingly producing and exporting, milk protein concentrates and isolates, other whey derivatives, lactose, lactoferrin, and I could go on for another 10 minutes. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yes. I have here with me, I prepare a little bit on this. This is pet food, for European, because we have seen the surge in imports and export equally from Thailand and Europe on pet food. And of course, from Thailand, we export a lot of pet food in bulk commodities in general, pet food to Europe. And we also see the incomes of premium pet food from Europe to Thailand as well, especially veterinary diets for cats and dogs. We have profited a lot from the pet food that cure dogs and cats with kidney disease in Thailand. So this is and we foresee more pets in Thailand next year as well. Now we have like 20 million pets in Thailand, but next year we foresee like 21.8 million pets in Thailand. So it's like the demand, domestic demand is there. So maybe you could look into that.
Thank you. Because agri-food and the food is not only human food that we are discussing. All right. So we have 10 minutes left. So I have a question over here at the very end of the room. And all right, then I'll try to take you. So these 2 questions, and then we are wrapping it up. Yes, Felix. Give it a sec.
Nothing?
Yeah, it should be working now.
Working? All right.
Yes.
So, I'm a dairy farmer from northern Germany, and I was really interested because talking about the dairy system in Europe and sustainability in the same way is, in my eyes, very complicated because we ship in the protein from overseas. We use the farms here to grow corn and grass. That's it. We feed the dairy cows. We put them to industry and let the milk lose the water, which is very energy intensive, to ship it to the global market. I believe this is madness, and I don't think that we should keep going on with this, but rather shipping all the food that we produce,
please.
we supply our knowledge to the world of making good food. Maybe you can refer to that.
Thank you. Thanks, Felix. Point taken. And we had, over there, wave your hand so that my colleagues can see you. You have the microphone already. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. My name is Roxanne Feller, and I represent the animal health sector. I have a question. When we know that the world needs an increase of animal protein by 40% when we reach 2035, and other trade partners are actually focusing on exports, they're grasping the economic benefits. But in the EU, on the contrary, we are disinvesting in livestock. I want to know maybe from the Commission or from someone else in the panel, is it really wise, knowing that animal protein is produced with the lowest emissions in the EU, to disinvest so much in our livestock sector in Europe? Thank you.
Right. Ileana.
I think this is a very important question because for me it opens up to another issue, which is that we are privileged consumers who have very high expectations from the food we eat, the way it's produced, etc. And at the same time, because here we're talking about the presence of the EU in global markets, these markets are highly political. Being absent for these markets weakens us geopolitically. And when we have a sector that's working well, that was thriving, let's say, I think we need to reflect as consumers to the fact that we must not miss such opportunities as the one that was mentioned now, because we have certain expectations that are not always very realistic, and we must also balance between what we want in our plate, what we want in our environment, and also what is contributing to our physical security longer term. I think this is really important. I think it was very striking, and I won't be long, but this is something that struck me a lot after the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, where we saw how African countries, so I mean also Africa is going to double its population in the next, by now to 2050, so 900 million to 1.8 billion. This is a huge potential that we may lose for political reasons because we are having certain preferences. I just wanted to, I was listening to Roxanne, this came to my mind, and I would like to put it on the table that we need also to take these things into account beyond, consumer preference, And environment protection is very important, but also our security, physical security is very important. We don't want the world against us one day. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Ileana. Any other responses? Okay, you can.
I can briefly respond to the question on milk. So I think it's not realistic to expect that all countries, as I mentioned earlier as well, would be self-sufficient in dairy. So I think we do need trade. And when we talk about the exports of milk powders, for instance, it's not always or primarily used to transform it into drinking milk afterwards. I mean, skim milk powder is used as an ingredient in various food products, chocolate, infant formula, you name it. So it's the global food system is and the supply chains are more complex than we perhaps commonly tend to think.
Agata?
Thank you. So the question on livestock. So I think it's a very good question, and I'm happy this comes up because indeed it is important to find a way forward for the livestock sector. And this is, again, I'm coming back to the vision. It seems to be covering really many elements of our conversation. But there is what we call the livestock work stream, which is ongoing work together with the sector, where we are precisely discussing about defining the future of the livestock sector, because this is not only economics, this is our countryside, how we want to see the countryside in Europe. This is about environment, this is about climate. So livestock is at the interplay of many, many aspects, which is why precisely this work is now undergoing. So I hope you'll be also tuned in for the follow-up. Can I add a point just on Africa? I'm very happy that Africa comes up in the discussion, and just to say that strong commitment towards our African partners was strengthened now recently at the summit between the European Union and the African Union, a very important partner and also very strategic for the EU. I just wanted to benefit from your raising.
Thank you, Agata. Well, I'm afraid we're running out of time. There's so much that we could still discuss, but also lunch will be waiting for us very shortly. So if I can give each one of you one last round to give a final message to the audience, anything that you feel that is outstanding that you would like to add, or like maybe a key takeaway from this conversation. Maybe this time around I can start with Councillor Sington and then like all the way back to Agata Galinska.
So, well, I haven't quite thought it through. And I like to just reiterate on what I just mentioned to you, that to see like trade as an opportunity, and then you, apart from one partner that EU used to have, you still have many other partners in the world, including like Thailand and in our region as well. So use us and see us as like reliable partner with shared values. This is like my key takeaway. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much. Ileana?
I would say that trade is a very important tool from many perspectives. On the one hand, trade is giving outlets to the European farmers, but then we must make sure they can produce. On the other hand, it creates partnerships that have, cultural advantages, political advantages, economic advantages.
Thank you.
I'm just going to be saying the same thing because I think it's really important to underline that. I mean, trade is really crucial for all agri-food supply chains, and we don't emphasize that enough. And it's a service to other actors in the supply chain. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Agata.
I think I have a reflection on the amount of challenges which are coming up around trade, both from our discussion and also from the questions that we're seeing on screen. So challenges go through food security, geopolitics, climate. There was mention of food weaponization. So the issues around trade and agri-food sector are currently extremely challenging. It is therefore very important to keep on talking, discussing, cooperating to find a way forward. And this is precisely a type of discussion which is very useful. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Agata, and to all the speakers, really. We started highlighting the uncertainty over the current global geopolitical and market context. And the key word that has stood out is reliability. Getting this clarity, getting this reliability. And I think this is very, very important. And we've discussed so many aspects, how we can tackle these challenges, what are the opportunities that arise, how can we also make sure that there are no losers in our pursuit of trade agreements, and while we try to still maintain our global position in our quest for strategic autonomy. So this has been a really insightful conversation. I'm sure that we're going to be continuing the conversation over lunchtime, but I have to wrap it up here. So can I ask for a big round of applause to our panelists? Thanks a lot.
To all our panelists, some really, really interesting observations. And clear the number of times that the strong partnerships, reliable partnerships coming up with those deals, with the importance on both sides, obviously. Few things just to tell you. If we actually, let's bring up a QR code for you now. Brilliant. I'll move out of the way. Sorry, excuse me. This is the QR code for the report. So if you would like a copy now on your phone or your tablet, whatever you are using, that QR code will take you straight to the report that Bensa outlined earlier this morning. So there's your lunchtime reading for you. And while you are reading it and thinking all sorts of things, do have a look at the LinkedIn page as well, DG Agri's LinkedIn page, because there's lots of different thoughts and comments on there, and people are putting comments in the LinkedIn page as well. You can also use the hashtag to share any of your views or your thoughts with any photos of the day as well. So that's EU Agri-Food Days. So now that you've got the report, and if you want to go and talk to the team, Bensa and his team will be outside. Yep. Fabulous. So they have an area outside. You can go and talk to them there. The JRC is also there to talk about the modelling. Plus, we also have for you the FADN, the FSDN. They can talk to you about some of the data as well. And we know that getting the right data is the foundation of everything. So lots of different people to talk to you through the report. We've talked about two of the main issues that Bensa outlined earlier. The next one we will talk about after lunch is the income for EU farms. So farmers' income, agriculture's income, everything around that. So I'm pretty sure that many of the questions that came up in this session may also come up again for that one. So delegates, thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you to those who have been joining us online. We will meet again at 2:00. So we've given you a nice long time for networking and to meet people to talk more about the report. So we will see you back in the room to start again at 2:00. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well done.